May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I'm going to do something a little bit different today for me. I'm going to start with the readings. The Song of Solomon is a beautiful reading, sometimes used at weddings. My beloved speaks and says to me, "Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. Now that winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree puts forth its figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away." I want to add me on the end of that, but anyway. It's a wonderful reading about new life. Winter is past and spring has come. The mark reading is not so inviting, for it is about conflict and division, about two opposing viewpoints, two different ways of expressing faith. But there is a teaching there, and that is what is evil comes from the human heart. It is what comes out that defiles. Both of these readings reinforce what we know. New life comes, and that which is destructive to relationships is our words and our actions. Marriage. Who's married? Only a couple of people. Come on. I can't see up the back. Is anybody married up the back? Oh, there's a few. Gosh, I would have expected you guys to be more married than not. Oh, that came out weird, didn't it? So how's marriage working out for you? I hear some excitement. Beg your pardon?
I said mine was good, but he's dead.
Oh. Well, I suppose that put an end to that.
It was great for 52 and a half years, but suddenly it was not there anymore. And it's a difficult time, but there's a big adjustment, and it's been great.
It is, yeah. That's huge. Yes.
Billy Graham's wife, who, when asked the same question, replied, "It's very daily."
Very daily.
Very daily.
Very daily, yes. There are good marriages and there are not so good marriages, and we all have had an opportunity to see them. But what makes a good marriage? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So I'm right. Compromise. Yeah. Anybody up the back? For those of you who didn't hear that, that was short memory. Did I hear acceptance? Yeah. Happiness. Respect. Kindness. What about communication? Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? That picks up. Do you remember The Prophet by Cahill Gibran? It's an old favourite, isn't it? And it's often his little prose about marriage has often been used at weddings. It's hardly used now. I haven't used it probably for 20 years. So I thought I'd dust it off and bring it out. The Almatra spoke again and said, "And what of marriage, Master?" And he answered, saying, "You were born together, and together you shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. Aye, you shall be together even in the silent memory of God. But let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shore of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from the one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. Even as the strings of the lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping. For only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together. For the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadows." So there's togetherness, but in the togetherness there's the acknowledgement of individuality and separateness. In the togetherness there's the acknowledgement of difference. And it's probably the difference that drew you together in the first place. And marriage seems to be between two people. Yet today I've listed three components. So there is a third component in marriage. There's the two people, but then there's something else. That's something which is magical, that bonds and binds, and that creates an environment of trust, of openness, of acceptance, of love. Each of us have got three components, and they are, as the title suggests, body, soul, and mind. Now, the body's pretty easy. It's that which contains us. It's that which is standing here in front of us. It's that which is sitting down. But there's more to the body than sinews and muscles and bones. There's those components which make us unique. Once upon a time, I had nice red hair. But that's changed. Once upon a time, I was very fit. But that's changed. Our bodies are in transition. But what about our minds? What is the mind? A couple of definitions. The mind is a set of cognitive faculties, including consciousness, perception, thinking, judgment, language, memory. The mind is also where imagination resides. Dr. Dan Siegel has a very simple way of looking at it. The mind is an embodied and relational process that regulates the flow of energy and information. So the mind is more than, but including, the consciousness, the brain. It's about energy and information, because we're taking in information all the time about the temperature. Our bodies sense when we need to put on today, a coat and gloves. Constantly taking in information, and we're constantly processing energy and giving of energy. And what's the soul? The soul is that component of us that connects us to the divine. It's that component of us which is more than what we are. It is the sacred sense of who we are. John O'Donoghue in Adam Cara describes the soul as, locates the soul. Most people locate the soul within the body. But John locates the body within the soul. So it is not contained by this vessel. This vessel is within the soul. Have you ever met somebody and all of a sudden there's that click? You haven't known them before, you haven't touched them, but you've got close and all of a sudden there's some energy that moves between you. Have people experienced that? That's our souls bumping together. Ever been in a group of people, like a big crowd, MCG for instance, and at the end of the day felt exhausted? It's bumping up against everybody's souls and energy moving between. But there's one thing that's happened. We, over time, have separated out body, soul, and mind. The suggestion is that we bring them back together again. That we are one, we have different components, sure, and those components are mind, body, and soul. But they don't need to be separated. They don't need to be seen as something different to each other, but rather something that combines together to make a whole. This is our bodies. This is our faith. This is our excitement and imagination. This is all of us together. As individual bodies, we are each of those things. A community of faith is also one body, made up of many, many parts. The importance of that is understanding the one thing that draws everybody together. That's belief, faith. It is an understanding that there is something beyond us that draws us together and brings us together. We are a community of faith. Doesn't mean that we always see eye to eye. Like in marriage, we don't always see eye to eye. We don't always agree on the same thing. I know families and couples where one barracks for Carlton and the other barracks for Melbourne. It's awful. But they still keep it together because they're able to communicate, because they're able to trust, because they have a commonality, and that is their relationship. That is their understanding of each other. We as a community do not have to see eye to eye, but we as a community have to respect difference, trust difference, trust each other, go beyond ourselves and be open to each other. What faces us today and every day is to embrace difference in order to create balance and harmony. Amen.